Early this year, a Billboard interview with the founders of Chaotic Good projects caught quite a lot of attention for all the wrong reasons. In that interview, the founders of Chaotic Good projects admitted to artificially creating, let's just call it, non-organic virality for some of the musicians they were helping to promote. Many musicians were obviously unhappy about the unfairness all this represents, which is why there was all the attention on this one interview. Musician Eliza McLam investigated the phenomenon further and presented her findings in a post on her Substack that has gained more than 3,000 likes since its publication in April. According to McLam's post, it turns out that even the supposedly real alternative musicians are often artificially promoted using well-funded, highly deliberate narrative campaigns that aim to insert them into their target audience's streams of consciousness, using the all-powerful algorithms of social media platforms. I guess the betrayal of finding out that the favorite artist you thought you discovered for real was actually astroturfed to you via the manipulation of social media algorithms must feel especially painful. Some people might contend that it doesn't matter, that as long as one is able to find music to enjoy, it doesn't matter what actually made you discover it in the first place. I suspect quite a few people can't quite agree, because manipulated choice is very different from real choice, and some of us do place a high value on actually having real choices. Even if our need for good music could be satisfied by manipulated promotion, it would still inevitably mean that we would be missing out on choices that could have been available to us if such manipulated promotion never occurred in the first place. The music industry has long been known to be an unfair playing field, at least among people who have been paying attention to these things. The word payola was first coined almost a century ago, and things have only gotten worse since then. Generations of musicians who want a fair shot at the game have cared about this, to no avail. This is probably because, to most other people, music is just entertainment, and most people don't care too much if the entertainment came from a fair process. The musician has always been left to fight this unfairness alone, and most are ultimately forced to give up one way or another. This is why the landscape of independent musicians is littered with thousands and thousands of broken dreams accumulated over the generations. However, in the age of the internet, especially since Web 2.0, everything has converged onto the same space, onto the same platforms, and ultimately become subject to the same rules, the same dynamics, and more importantly, the same vulnerabilities. This is why, unlike the payola of bygone days, today's strategies of fake morality, narrative creation, algorithm manipulation, and so on, aren't just being used in the music industry. They are being used in other contexts too, and the one I am most concerned about is in politics, specifically in the coordinated use of political influences and influence campaigns to create and manipulate narratives with an aim of achieving certain political outcomes. And just like in music, there have already been plenty of concrete examples of this narrative manipulation that we can point to in the political context. The clearest and, in my opinion, most sinister example was when a group of anti-woke influencers who used to identify as classical liberals collectively turned against classical liberalism around 2021, and instead embraced new illiberal right ideologies like national conservatism. There are several reasons why I'm particularly concerned about online narrative manipulation in the political context. Firstly, unlike music, politics has real-world consequences that extend well beyond unfairness towards individuals playing a particular game. As the saying goes, even if you don't care about politics, politics can care about you and make your life hell. Secondly, many of the people using the most advanced techniques of manipulation appear to have an authoritarian agenda. For example, I think you can almost draw a direct link from the aforementioned coordinated illiberal right turn in 2021 to the deeply authoritarian agenda embraced by the Trump administration in the past 2 years. Finally, democracy is only meaningful when people are both given real choices to choose from, and also given fair and unbiased information about these choices. Therefore, if the information environment is being heavily manipulated, even if elections keep happening, what we have is no more than a flawed democracy. The fact is, musicians who have fought alone for generations in a futile battle for equal opportunity in the music industry at least readily acknowledge the unfairness of the status quo, that things are only getting worse, and they also have the language to readily describe what is happening. This means that, at least in acknowledging what is actually happening, they are already light years ahead of most political commentators, many of whom are still pretending that we live in a level playing field world. Given that everything happens on the same platforms and are subject to the same vulnerabilities nowadays, I believe that studying what happens in music can teach us about what is happening in politics too, and this awareness is going to be really important to help us resist those with an authoritarian agenda.